Sri Krishnaya Paramatmane Namaga. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaga. Pathanjali Yoga Sutram. Samaadhi Paadham Sutrams 21 to 30. Sutram 21. Tivra Samveghanam Asannah. Success is speeded for the extremely intense and energetic. Sutram 22. Mridhu Madhya Adhima Tratvat Tataha Api Viseshaha. They again differ according as the means or mild, medium or supreme. For those who seek liberation wholeheartedly, realization is near. How near depends on whether the practice is mild, moderate or intense. Sutram 23. Ishvara Pranidhanadva. Realization may also come if one is oriented toward the ideal of pure awareness, Ishvara. In other words, by devotion to Ishvara. Sutram 24. Klesha Karma Vipaka Ashayai Aparamrustaha Purusha Visesha Ishvaraha. Ishvara is a distinct, incorruptible form of pure awareness, utterly independent of cause and effect and lacking any store of latent impressions. He is untouched by misery, the results of actions or desires. We must again remember that this Pathanjali Yoga philosophy is based upon that of the Sankhyas. Only that in the later there is no place for God, while with the yogis God has a place. The yogis, however, avoid many ideas about God, such as creating. God as the creator of the universe is not meant by the Ishvara of the yogis. Although, according to the Vedas, Ishvara is the creator of the universe. Seeing that the universe is harmonious, it must be the manifestation of one will. The yogis and Sankhyas both avoid the question of creation. The yogis want to establish a God, but carefully avoid this question. Why do they not raise it at all? Yet, you will find that they arrive at God in a peculiar fashion of their own. What they say forms part of the next sutra. Sutram 25. Tatra niradisayam sarvajnanatva bijam. Its independence makes this awareness an incomparable source of omniscience. In him becomes infinite that all-knowingness which in others is only a germ. The mind must always travel between two extremes. You can think of limited space, but the very idea of that gives you also unlimited space. Close your eyes and think of a little space, and at the same time that you perceive the little circle, you have a circle around it of unlimited dimensions. It is the same with time. Try to think of a second, you will have with the same act of perception to think of time which is unlimited. So with knowledge. Knowledge is only a germ in man. But you will have to think of infinite knowledge around it, so that the very nature of your constitution shows us that there is unlimited knowledge. And the yogis call that unlimited knowledge God. Sutram 26. sa purvesham api guruhu kalena anavashchaditaha anavashchedat. Existing beyond time, Ishvara was also the ideal of the ancients. He is the teacher of even the ancient teachers, being not limited by time. It is true that all knowledge is within ourselves, but this has to be called forth by another knowledge. Although the capacity to know is inside us, it must be called out, and that calling out of knowledge can only be got, a yogi maintains, through another knowledge. Dead, insentient matter never calls out knowledge. It is the action of knowledge that brings out knowledge. Knowing things, beings must be with us to call forth what is in us. So these teachers were always necessary. The world was never without them, and no knowledge can come without them. God is the teacher of all teachers, because these teachers, however great they may have been, gods or angels, were all bound and limited by time, and God is not limited by time. These are the two peculiar distinctions of the yogis. The first is that in thinking of the limited, the mind must think of the unlimited, and that if one part of the perception is true, the other must be, for the reason that their value as perceptions of the mind is equal. The very fact that man has a little knowledge shows that God has unlimited knowledge. If I am to take one, why not the other? Reason forces me to take both or reject both. If I believe that there is a man with a little knowledge, I must also admit that there is someone behind him with unlimited knowledge. The second deduction is that no knowledge can come without a teacher. It is true, as the modern philosophers say, that there is something in man which evolves out of him. All knowledge is in man, but certain environments are necessary to call it out. We cannot find any knowledge without teacher. If there are men teachers and God teachers or angel teachers, they are all limited. Who was the teacher before them? We are forced to admit, as a lost conclusion, one teacher who is not limited by time, and that one teacher is infinite knowledge without beginning or end, is called God. Sutra 27. Tasya vachaha pranavaha. Ishvara is represented by a sound Om. His manifesting word is Om. Every idea that you have in the mind has a counterpart in a word. The word and the thought are inseparable. The external part of the thought is what we call word, and the internal part is what we call thought. No man can, by analysis, separate thought from word. The idea that language was created by men, certain men sitting together and deciding on words, has been proved to be wrong. So long as things have existed, there have been words and language. What is the connection between an idea and a word? Although we see that there must always be a word with a thought, it is not necessary that the same thought requires the same word. The thought may be the same in 20 different countries, yet the language is different. We must have a word to express each thought, but these words need not necessarily have the same word. Sounds will vary in different nations. Our commentator says, although the relation between thought and word is perfectly natural, yet it does not mean a rigid connection between one sound and one idea. These sounds vary, yet the relation between the sounds and the thoughts is a natural one. The connection between thoughts and sounds is good only if there be a real connection between the thing signified and the symbol. And until then, that symbol will never come into general use. Symbol is the manifester of the thing signified, and if the thing signified has already existence, and if by experience we know that the symbol has expressed that thing many times, then we are sure that there is the real relation between them. Even if the things are not present, there will be thousands who will know them by their symbols. There must be a natural connection between the symbol and the thing signified. Then, when that symbol is pronounced, it is recalled the thing being signified. The commentator says the manifesting word of God is Om. Why does he emphasize this? There are hundreds of words for God. One thought is connected with 1,000 words. The idea God is connected with hundreds of words and each one stands as a symbol for God. Very good. But there must be a generalization among all these words, some substratum, some common ground of all these symbols, and that symbol, which is the common symbol, will be the best and will really be the symbol of all. In making a sound, we use the larynx and the palate as a sounding board. Is there any material sound of which all other sounds must be manifestations? One which is the most natural sound. Aum is such a sound, the basis of all sounds. The first letter A is the root sound, the key, pronounced without touching any part of the tongue or palate. M represents the last sound in the series, being produced by the closed lip, and U rolls from the very root to the end of sounding board of the mouth. Thus, Om represents the whole phenomena of sound producing. As such, it must be the natural symbol, the matrix of all variant sounds. It denotes the whole range and possibility of all the words that can be made. Apart from these speculations, we see that around this word Om are centered all the different religious ideas in India. All the various religious ideas of Vedas have gathered themselves around this word Om. What has that to do with American and England or any other country? Simply that the word has been retained at every stage of religious growth in India, and it has been manipulated to mean all the various ideas about God. Monists, dualists, monodualists, separatists, and even atheists look up to this Om. Om has become the one symbol for the religious aspiration of the vast majority of human beings. Take, for instance, the English word God. It conveys only a limited function, and if you go beyond it, you have to add adjectives to make it personal or impersonal or absolute God. So, with the words for God in every other language, their signification is very small. The word Om, however, has around it all the various significances. As such, it should be accepted by everyone. Sutram 28. Tat jabas tat artha bhavanam. Through repetition, its meaning becomes clear. The repetition of this Om and meditating on its meaning is the way. Why should there be repetition? We have not forgotten that theory of samskaras, the sum total of the impressions lives in the mind. Impressions live in the mind, the sum total of impressions, and they become more and more latent, but remain there. And as soon as they get the right stimulus, they come out. Molecular vibration will never cease. When this universe is destroyed, all the massive vibrations disappear. The sun, moon, stars, and the earth will melt down, but the vibrations must remain in their atoms. Each atom will perform the same function as the big worlds do. So the vibrations of this chitta will subside, but will go on like molecular vibrations, and when they get the impulse, will come out again. We can now understand what is meant by repetition. It is the greatest stimulus that can be given to spiritual samskaras. One moment of company with the holy makes a ship to cross this ocean of life. Such is the power of association. So this repetition of Om and thinking of its meaning is keeping good company in your own mind. Study and then meditate and meditate and meditate when you have studied. the light will come to you, the self will become manifested. But one must think of this Om and of its meaning too. Avoid evil company, because the scars of old wounds are in you, and the evil company is just the heat that is necessary to call them out. In the same way, we are told that good company will call out the good impressions that are in us, but which have become latent. There is nothing holier in this world than to have good company, because the good impressions will have this same tendency to come to surface. Sutram 29. Tata pratyaksheta adhigama api antaraya abhavascha. From that is gain the knowledge of introspection and the destruction of obstacles. The manifestation of this repetition and thinking of Om will be that the introspective power will be manifested more and more, and all the mental and physical obstacles will begin to vanish. What are the obstacles to the yogi? Sutram 30. Vyadhi, Dhyana, Sansaya, Pramada, Alasya, Avirati, Adhranti, Darshana, Alabdha, Bhumikavatha, Bhumikatva, Anavastittatvani, Chitta, Vikshebha, Te Antarayaha. The obstacles are given in this sutra. They are disease, mental laziness, doubt, calmness, cessation, false perception, non-attaining concentration, and falling away from the state when obtained are the obstructing distractions. Disease. This body is the boat which will carry us to the other shore of the ocean of life. It must be taken care of. Unhealthy persons cannot be yogis. Mental laziness makes us lose all lively interest in the subject, without which there will neither be the will nor the energy to practice. Doubts will arise in the mind about the truth of the science, however strong one's intellectual conviction may be. Until certain peculiar psychic experiences come, as hearing or seeing at a distance, etc., these glimpses strengthen the mind and make the student persevere. Falling away when attained. Some says or weeks when you are practicing the mind will be calm and easily concentrated, and you will find yourself progressing fast. All of a sudden, the progress will stop one day, and you will find yourself, as it were, stranded. Persevere, all progress proceeds by rise and fall. This completes the sutras from 21 to 30. We will now briefly see the summary of what is spoken in these sutras. Sutram 21, 22, and 23 talks about how to do sadhana. Sutram 24 to 29 talks about the greatness of Ishvara or God. And also it says the Ishvara is Omkara Swarupa or manifests as Om, and also it talks about the meditation on Omkara, Sutram 30. Sutram 30 again comes back to talking about sadhana. In this sutram, Pathanjali starts talking about the mind and what are the obstacles to sadhana coming out of the mind's vagaries. We'll see about subsequent sutras in the forthcoming episodes. Samastaloka Sukino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.